Hello, everybody. I'm Carl Waterstreet. I am running for Door County Sheriff. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Wisdom Wednesday. Pretty excited about the opportunity to, again, kind of portray or relay my information to you about what my goal is to do things as sheriff if you do so elect me in the next, boy, what is it? Got my countdown going here. 13 days. 13 days already. It's been crazy, a crazy ride. I love the fact that there's so much positivity out in the community, and there's so many people that are following this campaign and following these YouTube videos that it's encouraging to me. It makes sure that it's reassuring, I should say, that my platform is hitting the airwaves like it should, and people are watching it and understanding what I'm trying to accomplish, and the support has been amazing. And so on this Wisdom Wednesday, I want to talk about my plan for how to incorporate victims and how to incorporate basically rehabilitation with accountability. So, one of my famous quotes, I'm going to read it here from Ronald Reagan: "We must reject the idea that every time a law is broken, society is guilty rather than the lawbreaker. It is time to restore the American precept that each individual is accountable for their actions." It's, again, a quote from Ronald Reagan. And one of the things that I hold near and dear to my heart is supporting victims and supporting the idea that victims just don't have enough rights. When you look at how things are in America, I mean, the legislators just had to come up with Marsy's Law in order to provide victims with some sort of reassurance that their voices are going to be heard and that they have rights too, because the defendant has all the rights as garnered by the Constitution, and it's not fair because the defendant can come up with anything they want as long as it's in the realm of possibility to defend themselves. It doesn't have to be truthful. There's nothing that says that they have to actually prove their story. But all of the burden falls onto the prosecution and onto the victim of a crime that happened. And a lot of times, especially in like Door County, there's a lot of elder abuse. There's a lot of things that happen where the victims then don't have the money to have representation because the defendant took all the money, and then the victims got the burden to prove that the defendant did it. It's not right. And there has to be ways that we can support the victims better because, honestly, as sheriff, I cannot change the criminal justice system. I cannot change the way the law reads. That's up to legislators. That's up to people that are in way different positions than what the sheriff's doing. What I can do is I can help facilitate the conversations. I can also help facilitate different groups, such as, say, United Way, or different organizations that can help support the victims through their problems. And one of the things that I really want to push and I really want to do is a victim fund. I've already had conversations with United Way about this, and it's something that I'm very passionate about. Those of you that have followed me know that I've worked with Assemblyman Kitchens on the Kelsey Smith Act, and I've also worked with other legislators when I was with the DOJ to try and get child pornography and human trafficking bills passed, and have been successful in those arenas. And it's something that I'm really passionate about, and I am able to voice my opinion in a way that we can try and get those victims some help. And we need to pay attention to that a little bit more and kind of bridge that gap. So if a victim, let's say it's an elder abuse, and it doesn't even have to be an elder abuse. I'm just using that as an example. It could be any sort of fraud or anything. And this victim, let's just say you're out $10,000, and that $10,000 is your entire savings account. One idea that I want to pitch is to be able to find benefactors or be able to work with NGOs to be able to create a victim fund that we can then supplement you some income. Let's just say $5,000. And when you get through the court process, probably a year later, and you're right because you're the victim and the case was proven and prosecuted, and the defendant then gives you restitution, then you pay back that victim fund. Essentially, it's a loan. It's a way to bridge that gap between the arrest of the defendant and the conviction, and then the post restitution that comes as a result of it. So something that we really need to pay attention to. It's something that we need to harbor a little bit more. And when you're talking about other victims, when you're talking about domestic violence victims, when you're talking about sexual assault victims, we need to work better with agencies like family centers and Help of Door County in order to bridge the gap into assisting the victims a little bit better. As you all know, I worked with the DOJ. I worked very, very close with sexual assault victims. I dealt with sexual assaults every day in the Human Trafficking Bureau. Can you imagine a human trafficking victim that I worked with would, on average, get sexually assaulted 10 times a day for money, and their body was basically a piece of garbage at the end of it, as the way it was treated? Can you imagine the mind and the human brain, how that reacts to that? And then they have to then prove to a defendant that beat them and did all the things, tortured them essentially, and they have to stand up to them in court and prove that they're right and the defendant is wrong. It's incredible what they have to go through, and it had very little support. And that's where we need to do better as law enforcement, and as sheriff, I need to do better to help bridge that gap for these victims. And that's when I talk about victims first. That's a lot of the things that I'm trying to get to, and the message that I'm trying to get across. So and it takes the community to do that. That's why it's community and victims first is my slogan, and it's something that I've held true to my heart as I've run through this campaign. So that's one of the things that I'm presenting here on Wisdom Wednesday. When I say victims first, those are the things that I'm thinking in my mind that we can accomplish together as a community and work together to help support the victims of crimes rather than help support the defendants of crimes. I got way more ideas. If you need anything else or you have questions about what we want to do, I can talk about them some more on a different platform, and I may even talk about them a little bit next week too. But nonetheless, waterstreetforsheriff.com, or reach out to me, Carl for Sheriff at gmail.com, and or on Facebook, Water Street for Door County Sheriff. Thanks for tuning in on this Wisdom Wednesday. I really do appreciate it. Early voting has started. If you're not going to make it on August 11th, you did not apply for an absentee ballot, you can go in person early voting at your local polls, and you can cast your vote on the Republican ticket for Water Street for Sheriff. And I would really appreciate all the support you can give me. You can reach out to me anytime. I'm always willing to answer questions when I can. So thanks for tuning in. I really do appreciate you, and thank you for all the support.